Is Vesh Arumugam with Western Perspective.
Thanks, guys. Welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Vesh Arumugam. Locomotives and trains are part of the daily commute in WA. The integration of trains as part of daily transportation began before the early 1900s. For more than 100 years, Western Australians have been hearing the chugs and hoots of the trains running down the tracks by our homes. And 40 years ago, a group of men from Perth decided to preserve these locomotives in all their glory. WA Railway Museum has been open for public viewing for the past 4 decades, while Rail Heritage WA, association that's been a backbone for the museum, turned 60. WA Railway Museum is the fruit of tireless initiative by a group of men in Perth stepping up to portray the local locomotives in all their glory. 40 years ago, that group of men turned an unused land donated by a farmer to the iconic display of locomotives we have today. The museum has been open for public viewing for the past 4 decades, while Rail Heritage WA turned 60. President of Rail Heritage WA, Brian Williams, says it is truly a celebration.
Happy. I mean, who would have thought 60 years ago that we'd still be here today with this beautiful collection of rolling stock and, thinking of what we're going to be doing in the future.
The celebration continues with honouring 100 years of tireless service of a dining carriage.
We're celebrating the centenary of our narrow gauge dining car, which first came out in April of 1919, and it was last used by us probably about 15-20 years ago.
Brian takes pride in hosting a shelter for a 102-year-old standard gauge, which was one of the earliest dining cars built for the Commonwealth Railways for the Port Augusta-Kalgoorlie Railway. To those who are wondering what's new, there's one-in-a-lifetime chance to see one of the first diesel locomotives bought by the Commonwealth Railways in the early 50s.
When we get her here, she'll be on exhibition for everybody to see. And the plan is to ultimately, when we get it here and set up, is to build what we call a break of gauge platform, where it'll give an idea to the public of how rail travel was many years ago, where the train would come from Port Augusta to Kalgoorlie. Passengers got off, walked across the platform and got onto the local train to come to Perth.
For many, trains are just another mode of transportation, but Brian says for people like him, it's a cocoon of nostalgic memories. The significance of the museum is the Royal Cabin Coach.
The last person of royalty to use it was the late Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth, who travelled from Perth to Bunbury on the train in that car.
Trains don't always carry fond memories. At times, accidents are irresistible, and the royalties have not escaped it either.
We have another car here that was a former inspection car, but in the 1920s it was used to convey the then Prince of Wales on a tour down the southwest. Unfortunately, on his return from Pemberton, that coach tipped on its side because of soft embankment of the track, and there was a lot of concern that we might have caused injury to the Prince, but no, he got out and was seen standing beside the train smoking a cigar, sort of thinking to himself, well, what the hell's happened here?
For many, trains are a little fun game at home, but here it's truly a legend. For many of us, we were brought up seeing them running down the tracks by our homes. The museum is home for many iconic coaches and trains, but Brian says kids love Katie more than others for her closest impersonation of Thomas the Train Engine. Now, for the future of the museum, Brian encourages more young Western Australians to get involved, and more rolling stock sheds are also expected to be built. Next week on WP, we have the Perth pensioner that has an extraordinarily rare talent. As you can see, he can still sing like a gem at the age of 82. Join us for an exclusive report next week. Until then, back to you guys.
Thank you, Vesh. This week's main news again.